All right. Ooh. Okay. All right. So we are group number 7, I think, and we did our presentation on Ushpizin. So a little bit of background to give some context as to the film we're talking about. Our two main characters are Moshe and Molly, who are both husband and wife, and then we have two fugitives, two people who have escaped prison, named Yosef and Eliyahu. And then, so the main struggles in the film include Moshe and Molly not being able to conceive a child. And then the other kind of issues are Yosef and Eliyahu are on the run and are hiding by staying with Moshe and Molly. Um, and this is all happening during the holiday of Sukkot. Um, the climax of the film happens when Moshe reaches his breaking point with the two fugitives, when they try to make a dish for him and Molly as kind of like an offering of peace, but they use a citron, which was being used by Moshe and Molly in order to help them conceive a child. Um, and this all erupts, and Molly leaves Moshe in this moment. Um, and kind of Moshe is kind of down at the dumps at this point, but in the resolution, Moshe and Molly reunite and they end up having a baby. And then they also make amends with Yosef and Eliyahu um, during the celebration of Moshe and Molly's child. All right. Oh, oh, all right.
The thesis. Moshe and Ali represent the film's attempt at appealing to the Haredi community to non-religious Israeli filmgoers. The whole purpose and the whole statement of this movie is basically to, like I said, appeal to non-religious and or other religious individuals who may be viewing the film. And we're going to be covering some of the slides and topics about this thesis.
All right. So, the film Ushpizin is considered a romantic comedy. One piece of literature that I found on the genre of the film is titled "Toward a Jewish Religion: Realism in Israeli Cinema," which was written by Aaron Peleg. I don't know if that's how you say his name right, but I should have it in the last slide. The article talks about how the film, being a romantic comedy, was quite groundbreaking for Israeli cinema because it was one of the first films to use the romantic comedy genre in Israeli cinema. Specifically, it was used to, quote, make an unknown and unpopular community familiar and likable. In this case, that meant making the Haredi community, which Moshe and Mali depict in the movie, more familiar and likable in Israelis' secular, non-religious movie to Israelis, secular non-religious moviegoers. With the film being primarily about testing Moshe and Molly's faith, there are two specific instances in the film that jump out to me that highlight the genre of romantic comedy perfectly while tying into what the story is about as a whole and how humanizing the Haredi community is accomplished through all of this. One of these scenes is where Moshe receives a large sum of money and takes it to buy a citron to place in his and Molly's home in hopes of having it help them with their fertility issues. In this instance, Moshe is showing his continued faith and love for Molly by getting the citron instead of leaving her because of their fertility issues, showing the romantic side of the film and the couple's love for each other. From another perspective, this idea of Moshe and Molly having fertility issues is something that many couples who are romantically involved can relate to, and I know I see that in my own personal life, whether they are part of the Haredi community or not. This aspect shows how the film, through its romantic lens, humanizes and forces the audience to empathize and like the characters they are watching on the screen. The second scene that I want to talk about is a scene where the two fugitives who have escaped from prison and have been staying with Moshe and Mali attempt to show their gratitude for Moshe and Mali's hospitality by preparing that two of them a meal, which unfortunately uses the citron that Moshe bought at the beginning of the film to help with Mali's issues of conceiving a child. This this inevitably causes Moshe to explode when he discovers that they have used the citron. Um, and in the moment, there is the testing of Moshe's religious faith in the sense that this represents what could be a breaking point for him and where he could lose all the progress he's made by choosing to leave the life of crime behind that he once had, and becoming religious. However, he never breaks, that never happens. And the scene also shows through the comedic bit, while the fugitives actively tried to please Moshe by cooking for him, they instead ironically made him angry. There's also the aspect of, again, humanizing people in the Haredi community and showing that they too experience the same emotions and turmoil in the way that many of the non-religious filmgoers do. Thus, both examples show a clear connection between the main point of the film and how comedy and romance are interwoven into it to help humanize our Haredi characters depicted on screen.
So the themes are forgiveness and personal growth, and forgiveness is a key theme in the film, and it's shown through the actions of Moshe, Mali, Eliyahu, and Joseph. Eliyahu and Joseph don't understand the holiday, and their disrespectful actions, like they throw a very loud barbecue and they upset the community. They're asked to leave, but Moshe and Molly choose to forgive them and they invite them back. This moment of forgiveness highlights the importance of letting go of anger and being open to second chances. And it also reflects Moshe's own struggle with forgiveness, both towards others and himself. And in the end, forgiveness helps the characters grow emotionally and spiritually, showing how it can heal relationships and lead to personal transformation. In the beginning, Eliyahu and Yosef both started as criminals. Molly had called them murderers, but they had eventually become symbols of the holiday spirit and hospitality. Their path to forgiveness begins when they asked Moshe to host them, um, and forgiveness when he dismisses them. And they try to shift from being guests to hosts when they prepare a salad, even though things go wrong. Their personal growth is shown when they admit that they struggle to accept that Moshe has changed, and this is a step forward and them changing themselves. The theme of personal growth is also central to them because they're seeking a fresh start. And when they arrive at Moshe and Molly's home, they bring with them the hope of redemption and new beginning, despite all of their past mistakes. They're both like Moshe and Molly, and they're all on their own paths of transformation, and their presence in the film reflects growth. Eliyahu's comments to Joseph on how different Moshe seemed, remarking how he used to be an aggressive man and expressing confusion over his newfound gentleness. However, despite Moshe's act of kindness in offering them shelter, Eliyahu and Joseph began to take advantage of the couple's generosity. They asked Molly for money and for a grill, and they bought the meat and they created a very large scene, which ultimately had the police called. And after hiding the fugitives from the police, Molly discovered that Moshe had lied about their identity, and she felt betrayed and decided to leave. Moshe also believes that he cannot fully satisfy his wife, emotionally or spiritually. His sense of inadequacy stems from his deep desire to provide her to fulfill their dream of having a family. Moshe does everything he can to meet her needs. He buys her nice things after they receive a blessing of 1,000 shekels from an unknown person. And he even goes as far to lie to their guests when he senses Molly's discomfort with their presence. And this underscores the importance of forgiveness in themselves and others.
Hi, my name is Sean Field, and I'll be covering the religious importance within the film. I chose this topic because I attended a private Catholic school. Here I was taught about the Catholic Bible and how religions interact with one another and society. Historically, religion has been used for many different factors, such as power, money, faith, community, and oppression. Over these past few decades, society has slowly stepped away from a religion. This is due to many different factors, both reasonable and unreasonable. That said, this film, as our thesis mentions, appeals to non-Haredi members due to the humanizing acts of community, fear, distrust, and family troubles. Many individuals, including myself, have family members who we do not agree with, like Yosef and Elihu in this film. We can often find ourselves in disagreements with our family members over things like religion, politics, and many other topics. Some families will even cut ties completely due to these disagreements, as we almost see in the film. However, the Aramaic meaning for Ushpizin is visitors and guests. Visitors and guests in both ultra-Orthodox Jewish culture and traditional society are treated with respect and ideally welcoming arms, especially during holidays. The holiday in particular that is being celebrated is Sukkot. Sukkot is a 7-day festival full of prayers and holiday meals. It is commonplace to welcome outsiders and visitors to Sukkot as it goes back to the first patriarch, Abraham. According to Leslie Ross in her article Ushpizin, Welcoming Guests, Abraham would sit outside waiting for the opportunity to invite dusty wayfarers into the shade of his tent and prepare a great meal for them. This is essential to the film because the convicts are eventually welcomed back into the family, leading to what can be described as a divine ending with the birth of a son. As previously described in the background slide, Moshe and Mali were struggling to have a child, but through divine intervention, a son is born, revealing the happiness that can come from faith and religion, especially in terms of family. So, appealing to the audience members outside the Red community, many non-religious individuals, including myself, celebrate similar holidays like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and many more times of celebration. Like Sukkot, they all include getting together with family members, sharing food, and time together. They also include many fights and disagreements, but ultimately, they come together and become one with one another and share love, compassion via food, celebration, dance, humor, and all sorts of happy types of things. That is exactly why I chose to cover the religious importance of this film, because being with one another and showing compassion for other human beings is essential, especially when attempting to live a good life, as seen through this film.
The characters I will be focusing on are about Moshe and Mali, who are a religious married couple. In the article Love in Search of Belief, Believe in Search of Love by Shai Ginsburg, it talks about how both characters push gender norms. For Moshe, he had previously associated with Yosef and Eliyahu before he came to Jerusalem and married Mali. He used to have an extreme temper and would consistently get into fights when he was drinking. Before he found religion, he used to break social and gender norms in the negative direction, where he would drink excessively and involve himself in criminal activities. However, he broke away from this behavior when he began his journey into embracing religion. He broke from social and gender norms as he worked on his temper and learned how to regulate his anger. He regulated his drinking habits and would no longer engage in fights with others. And with this, he also broke norms by staying loyal to his wife over his religion. Molly had left him in the film because she was unable to have children and wanted Moshe to have children with another woman to fulfill the will of God. And Moshe instead fell apart because of his love for his wife. He could not fill that commandment of his religion without Molly. His character differs from other male characters in Israeli films as he treats his wife as an equal and not as an object or a secondhand citizen. He gives his wife a lot of independence and holds a great deal of respect for her. For Molly, she initially conforms to gender norms as she struggles to conceive and provide Moshe with a child, as that's what's expected in their religion and what's expected of her as a woman. She struggles with not being able to have children and wants to conform to the norm of being a good wife who can provide for her husband. However, she does break gender norms with being able to be independent of her husband. She's able to make decisions in the relationship, and those decisions are respected by her husband, which was not very common in some of the previous Israeli films showed in this class. As mentioned previously, one of Molly's decisions was to leave Moshe so her husband could have kids with another woman. And this decision eventually strengthened her relationship with her husband because, as I mentioned earlier, he refused to have children with anyone but Molly and even tried to convince her to come back. They both broke gender norms due to their love and respect for each other and for God. Molly, despite the fact that she could not conceive, still got to get back together with Moshe, and this shows how they disregarded some of the societal norms to be with each other and to continue their faith in God to be blessed with a child. Moshe and Molly's characters and their loving relationship is the film's attempt to appeal to the Haredi community, to the non-religious Israelis through the likability of the couple and how they surpass the norms established for them. Their love and respect for each other are factors that the general public would be considered to be critical for healthy relationships. Their struggle with conceiving is a challenge many other people face, and it puts a strain on the relationship. And yet they continue to choose each other and work through their challenges. Moshe and Molly are portrayed as real people facing real problems with social and gender norms, and this relatability forms a connection to the audience.
Hi, I'm Brandon Davies, and I'm going to be talking about the setting of the film. This film takes place in a Haredi neighborhood in Jerusalem, part of the Breslov community. And one of the things about these Haredi neighborhoods is they are extremely specific about many different things, including the clothing you wear. There are signs everywhere that will tell any visitors to be wearing specific clothing. There's only specific goods that can be sold in the stores there, and there can only be specific stores in these neighborhoods. And as our thesis is talking about trying to get people to uh, join these Haredi communities, the film does so in a way that makes them feel like a place where you can start new. Um, for instance, Moshe starts off, or like in the past, he was associated with some people who ended up in jail, and it's assumed that he's done some like not so good things. But in the movie, he comes to the Haredi neighborhood, he changes his faith and becomes very loyal to his faith and settles down, and he tries to have a child in a neighborhood that is very safe. Um, in the article Spatial Strategies of the Haredi Population in Jerusalem by Shalav Yosef, it talks about how the Haredi communities spread cultural dominance in the idea of um, like everyone there is very specifically Haredi. There's no one there that's not part of the religion. Um, so it builds a community of like-minded people, which is good. Like if you come to like MSU and you are in a major, you'll likely be in a dorm with people of your major. But the thing that the article talks about is that the Haredi communities uh, they want to prevent assimilation into normal society. They do not have much diversity, and if you wanted to use your cell phone or like the internet, they don't like um, a lot of modernization. But the film never really portrays any of that side of these Haredi communities. They the holiday of the Sukkot is a very important time for the Haredi community, as they have these Sukkots or Sukkahs. Yeah, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but um, which are like these quaint little temporary homes almost built out of wood, and they're filled to the brim with food and decorations for the holiday, and it really makes you uh, believe like, oh wow, this is like a quaint, quiet, inviting location. Um, and another in the film, there's a scene where the criminals are making a huge disturbance outside. They have a barbecue going, and there's loud music playing, and uh, the they're like not wanted there. So it kind of like signals to people who are wanting to join the Haredi community that it's a more quiet place to live. Um, yeah.
So the conclusion, um, Ushpizin uses romantic comedy to bridge the gap between Haredi and non-religious communities, making the ultra-Orthodox lifestyle more relatable. There are themes of forgiveness and personal growth that are explored through Moshe Mali that resonate from people from any background. The romantic and comedic moments in the film help humanize the community and the characters, which makes their faith a lot more accessible. And the film is set during the Sukkot holiday, which emphasizes community and religious connection, especially with the fugitives who were not religious. The quiet, modest setting reflects the close-knit nature of how the Haredi community exists. And the lighthearted tone helps the non-religious viewers understand and appreciate their lifestyle. Uzupin highlights the universal experience of growth and understanding and promotes unity across every culture.
All right. And then that is all for our presentation. My name is Colin. Um, and yeah, if everyone else just wants to quickly give their names real quick.
My name's Elise Clark.
My name's
I'm
Karina
Brandon.
Lamb. Sorry.
I'm Brandon Davies.
I'm Sean Field. Thank you.
All right, thank you.